What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host, Phil, for episode 305. Phil, I have to say,
what was that?
Getting your house ready to put it on the market is a nightmare. It's been nonstop cleaning, nonstop getting the house ready. We had the pictures taken to get it listed Monday, so yesterday as of this recording. Sunday alone, and we put in multiple days before that. We started working at 9 a.m. and we got done around 6:30, so 9.5 straight hours of just doing work around the house to get it ready. Mowing the lawn was one of the easier jobs. Then it was just like fixing the back gate. All the stuff that, like, all those tiny little to-do jobs
you
just
push
built
off
into 5 days of just nonstop work. Now it's now that the house is on the market, now it's all like keeping it clean until the papers are signed that the house is actually pending.
Yeah, that's wild. I don't have any plans on going through that anytime soon in my life. And even as I was thinking about it, I was like, out of our group, there's only been a handful of us that have put a house on the market. I think you're third now.
Fourth, I think. Fifth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, fifth.
I miscalculated. But yeah, it seems like a lot of work, and then not only cleaning up, but then like kind of hiding your own stuff would be the biggest thing with me. And like you said, like you can't make a mess ever. Like every day you have to clean essentially in case somebody wants to go through it, look through it, all that kind of stuff. And just like hiding my stuff would be the big part. Like all the pictures, like, yeah, there's some of your personal things, obviously, and some of your furniture and whatnot, but, like, you can't have your usual clutter mess, like you said, your background that you're showing right now. Like, my background of my couch literally sideways right now, that's not going to fly in a real estate picture. So, yeah, it seems like a lot of work, and good for you. And it's also moving really fast for you. Like, everything is just flying.
Yeah, like this is the third episode of The Move. So that's why there's nothing behind me. That's all already packed up. These jerseys, once this is done, go right in that closet there. Shout out to my parents for letting us store some stuff in their shed because we didn't want it for the pictures.
That
and then
helps.
We moved some more stuff over that we had jammed in our closets because the pictures are not going to be taken of the inside of the closets, but when people come over to look at the house, they're going to want to see the closets, and they're not going to want to see all the crap jammed in the closets. So we moved more stuff over today. So it's been fun. It's just 1 week, and then we can go back to living a little bit normally, and then start packing all of our stuff up for the move in November. But like I told Brooke and everybody else, this will be my final move. Besides, like, when I perish, they're moving my body. So this is the last move I'll be making as a live person. But if you're in the market for a house, let us know on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky, Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. You can check out our store on our link tree. It's on all our social media sites. It's in the bio on the link tree, or at the top of the website by just hitting the word shop, and it'll take you right to our store. You can represent the BSC on the go and look for the time breakdowns and the description of the show. Jam-packed show. We'll see if we can keep it under an hour here. We'll start with the Bills. Bills versus Jags, Monday Night Football, second straight primetime game, second of 3 in a row, and it was over by halftime once again. These games are becoming fun because second half really doesn't matter. It does hurt a lot of people's fantasy teams because you're expecting more. And like Josh Allen put up 4 touchdown passes in the first half, and you're like, man, he's going to go off. And then you realize Jacksonville's doing nothing. They won 47-10. Allen was just magnificent. I mean, anything he wanted to do, he simply could do. Shakir is becoming the number 1 alpha on this team. Kincaid is his follow-up Batman or Robin to, Shakir's Batman. This offense, it just looks absolutely indestructible right now. Like they can't do anything wrong. And this is back-to-back games where the game's been over at halftime. It's not something I was planning for, but it's something that I will hope continues, even though we know, like the NFL, any given Sunday, it's probably going to come back crashing down to earth 1 or 2 games at least this season.
Oh, for sure. For Thanksgiving, you say what you're thankful for. As far as these primetime games go for my sleeping schedule, I'm thankful that the Bills have had these wrapped up so early that I can just kind of zone out the second half and pass out whenever I want and wake up and the score will be fantastic. And it was. I think the big thing with the offense so far is that every game seems to be wildly different, and Joe Brady has no real pattern yet. And I think that's huge. I mean, one of the things that went wrong last year under Dorsey was the same plays over and over and over and over and over. And that was the issue with the offense. I mean, like, how many times do we come on here and say it's a run on first down, second down, it's third and long, let Allen be a hero and try to figure it out. Like, that's what it was game in, game out. And so far through 3 games, we've seen a very high-scoring Bills team, but in wildly different fashions each and every game. Like this game, James Cook was held to under 40 yards, and he didn't have a bad game. He did great because he was 4 for 48 through the air. But that's the thing. Like last week, he was amazing on the ground. This week, they were like, all right, well, we're going to take a back seat with the rushing, and we're going to go all through the air with 10 different people getting at least 1 reception, and that's how we're going to win this game. And I think that mix-up makes it very difficult for defenses to zone in on anything. Like, there's just no real scheme to plan for. There's no one person to plan for. And I think it's great. I mean, it's fantastic for the Bills, and I know the first game of the year against Cardinals, I was really looking forward to see, like, what can this team do at all? Because we have, it's just so many new things for this team. Now, 3 games in and them just kind of demolishing the last 2. Now I'm very anxious for the next 2 games to see against 2 teams that are still hit or miss with some of their losses this year, but 2 just very good teams. Like the Ravens are arguably picked to be a Super Bowl contender, Houston as well. So I think those are going to be massive, massive tests, but I'm very excited for them. But I don't want to leave the fantastic 47-10. Finally put the Jaguars behind you, who have kind of had your number secretly in these trap games the last few years, and to not only come out and put them behind you, but crush them by a 47-10 throttle was fantastic.
Yeah, as you were speaking about the offense, where it's just like you never know what to expect, this is an offense that is doing what they want to do based on what the defense is providing. Like this one was Jacksonville playing man-to-man defense nonstop, and you do that and you're giving Josh Allen, he can just pick the offense apart, and that's kind of what happened. And this is the true definition of an everybody eats type of offense, because they truly do not care. There's I'm not saying there's no egos on this team, but there's no alpha that is there commanding the targets, and that's no shot at Stephon Diggs whatsoever. But he was Stephon Diggs. He's a star-studded player, and he's going to command targets because he is a star-studded player. Here is just a collection of offense where you're going to go to the hot hand, or you're going to go to the guy that's beating the defense. And Shakir is just like a little pinball out there. It doesn't look like anybody can ever like tackle him on the first. I think he's 4th or 5th in the league on yak yardage. But the offensive line played great. I think the 2 tackles in Dawkins and Brown are playing the best football of their careers right now, keeping Josh Allen upright. I think I saw that Spencer Brown, this is his 3rd straight game of not allowing a pressure on pass blocking. He's absolutely star-studded right now, and I look like a complete idiot from 2 off seasons ago where I was saying this guy's cooked. Sean McDermott going for the 2 4th downs in the first half. Great. They went 5 for 5 with touchdowns in the first half. The rest of the players didn't have to do anything the whole second half. But, for the defense, I think players that are not getting talked about enough, Cam Lewis is the real deal. Benford is a super stud at this point. Like, you want to talk about not being a CB2? There's 2 CB1s on this team between Douglas and Benford right now, and Benford is going to be a household name in this league, and if he's not, it's because nobody's targeting him and nobody really knows who he is. Hamlin, awesome moment for him, and this is the type of defense that is perfect for him. He's keeping everything in front of him, and he's making plays out there. We loved him before the whole incident with the Bengals game. Like, we thought he was becoming a very solid safety back there. Dorian Williams, he's been absolutely quiet. And guess what? That's perfect for what he was last year, because for a guy that was making errors and mental errors nonstop last year, that pick is looking like a steal right now, between him and Spector being so quiet and making, just solid plays back there. Bass 2 for 2. Yes, he did have the first extra point block, but that seems like it was more of a breakdown in front of him on the line, letting somebody squeeze through. Could he have kicked it a little bit higher? Probably, but blocks are still going to happen. But Keon Coleman, not very many snaps. We found out that's because he was late for whatever was first, and I think he's going to learn his lesson there. But really, this comes down to, I think, if you want to talk about the players, perfect. But this comes down to Joe Brady being not the perfect man for the job, but one heck of an offensive coordinator right now, dialing up these play calls and dialing up systems and schemes to beat the opposing team's defense on what they're giving, because he's just taking it and running with it.
Yeah, I hate to make the comparison I did in the bowl predictions, but it is eerily similar to Kansas City, where they do not have, obviously they have Kelsey, I get it, but they don't have that alpha wide receiver. Yes, Rashee Rice is having a great season, but he's not your Jamar Chase. He's not that kind of wide receiver, and yet they always make it work. Last year they had pretty much nobody, and they won a Super Bowl, and that's exactly what the Bills are doing. Not saying this team's a bunch of nobodies. They have some talented players, but they're spreading the ball around in just absolutely insane amount. And to see Curtis Samuel even 3 for 22, getting him involved a little bit more from that injury, hopefully he starts to pick it up. Not, again, anything against him. I think he's just recovering a little bit. But even the defense, like you said, like the names at the top of the tackle list of Williams, Lewis, Spector, Hamlin, Benford, Douglas, like, yes, the CBs, but those are names that you didn't expect to be at the top of a starting roster list headed into this season. You've already been hit with a lot of injuries with Milano and Bernard and then Johnson. So you're losing 3 of your best defensive players, arguably 3 of the best defensive players on this team, and yet the team just continues to step up. I understand Jacksonville's kind of going through it right now, but they're still good enough to put points on the board, and the Bills defense just absolutely demolished them. And again, Von Miller, 3rd straight game with a sack. Not saying he's going to, go back to his younger days, but he looks good. He looks fresh. He looks explosive. And him as a rotational defensive end, that's what you need him at this point in his career, to just go out there and be that extra little burst that they need on this one play, like it's 3rd and short or 3rd and long. They need that extra little bit of pressure to hurry that QB up. And he's been that so far this year. I mean, again, 3 sacks so far. That's great. That's fantastic. If he can average 1 sack a game, which he won't, at some point he's not going to, but I mean, that would be, right now he's on pace for 17 sack season, which is mind-blowing. And again, he's not going to do it, but the fact that he looks this good this early is a really good sign for that team.
Let me just ask you a question. We're 3 games through. If you would have told me they were 2-1 after 3 games, I would have said that's a heck of a start to a season. They're sitting there 3-0. Besides the first half of the Arizona games, nothing's really been close. The offense can kind of do whatever they want. The defense is standing on their head, making unbelievable plays with the injuries that they have, which you just mentioned. Here's the question for you, because this team has been a playoff team since 2019. They've won their division 4 straight years. Does this feel different? Like, I understand that, the players changed over and the offensive coordinators changed over, so I'm not talking about that aspect of it, but does this 3-0 start and the way they're playing, does this feel differently than it has in the past?
Yes, it feels, this is what the Bills have needed. I don't think they're a good, we're going to win the Super Bowl team. They're not. I don't think they're the team that needs that chip on their shoulder. They're the team that needs to be the underdog. They need everybody to count them out. They need Josh Allen to be called overrated. Like, that's the kind of edge that this team needs, and that's what they're showing right now. Like, they are playing with that chip on the shoulder. The defense is flying around. They're angry. They're playing fast. The offense looks great. They're proving to everybody that they don't need an alpha. Again, not a shot at Diggs, but they're proving that they can move on from those players and still put up insane. I mean, they're averaging over 30 points a game when the NFL as a whole looks atrocious. I mean, across the league, especially with fantasy, everybody's been doing terrible. Like, just great teams have looked awful, and the Bills, out of all of them, have looked very consistent and great. But I do think it is that underdog mentality that they needed. I do not think this team plays well as the favorite. They play well as the team that's not going to win, not going to make, maybe make the AFC East division champs again, but they're not going to make the Super Bowl. They're going to be out first round. Like, that's the kind of mentality that this team needs to hear from the outside. And that's what you saw earlier when they were just winning the AFC East, when they made their first couple playoff runs. Like, it was that kind of team, and I think that kind of faded because they were chosen as the favorites, Super Bowl favorites overall. Like, they were just picked to win the whole thing. I don't think they play well under that style of pressure. I think they play well under this style of game.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been thinking and saying on this podcast and talking Buffalo is this kind of feels like what they need is like the 2020 season where it's like, okay, things progressed in 2019, but that's when the big step from Allen happened, and nobody was really expecting that. And Stephon Diggs came in, and you had that wide receiver group, and everything kind of panned out perfectly for that. That's kind of what it feels like here, where it was like everybody's counting them out. It's transition year. They're clearing a bunch of caps so they can rebuild next year and bring in the top dogs next year after they're paying a few guys here and there. But this definitely feels like a team that is listening to the outside noise and using it as bulletin board material and saying like, I don't care what you think about us. We're ready to go. We don't care who's in this locker room. We don't care who's going to be the guy that's getting all the praise and the glory. We got Josh Allen here, and we got a bunch of other guys that are just dogs here. So I do think this is a different feel than it has in the past, where it even feels a little bit different than 2020 where Josh Allen arrived. It feels like they're a team that's locked and loaded, not saying that they're going to make the AFC Championship, not saying that they're going to win a Super Bowl. It's just there's a different feeling from this team, and I'm very excited to see if this run continues, and we'll get another primetime game Sunday night in Baltimore to find out. But 3 straight away games between Baltimore, Houston, and Jets.
It's going to be a big stretch.
It's a big stretch. If you can go 2-1, if you can go 3-0, but if you can go 2-1 in that stretch and sit 5-1 after 6 games, it's a big start to your season. But we will move on to a team that's getting ready to start their season. How about that transition for you there, Phil? Buffalo Sabres, their first game is next Friday the 4th in Prague. They're overseas right now. I believe they just flew out today, the main core. The rest of their core is being the sacrificial lambs, finishing up the preseason here. Phil, next show, we're going to be doing our 3 bold predictions. I kind of teased it this show because I forgot that it's a whirlwind over here, Phil. I'll be lucky to know if this is out on Wednesday. I think it's Tuesday night. But on the next show, we'll do the 3 bold predictions. But on today's show, I'm posing a question to you, and I'm posing the same question to me. Who are the 2 players you need to step up this year for the Buffalo Sabres to finally make the playoffs and break that long drought, tied for the longest drought in professional sports? Who are the 2 top players? Give me your first.
I'm going to go with both of mine back to back, because they are under the same main segment here, and it's called Will the Real Buffalo Sabre Please Stand Up? These are 2 guys. We don't really know who they are. The first one is UPL. He finished last year 51 games, 27, 22, and 4, 2.57 goals against average, tied for 9th best in the league, 910 save percentage, tied for 16th best in the league, 5 shutouts, tied for 2nd. All of that sounds fantastic, but a lot of that happened January on. It did not really happen. There were flashes here and there, but he was very inconsistent from October to December, and that's the big thing. I know you've been harping on it for a little while, that you want to see a full season of him. I do believe in him. I do believe the second half of the season was what he can do, but he still has to prove it. He has not had a full season as the number 1 goalie. He hasn't had a full season of health, other than last year, but like a full season where he's the guy and this is his team. He's got to go out there and prove that what happened at the end of last year was him, and that is who he is as a goaltender moving forward, and that's just how he's going to play. The team didn't get any better from January to the rest of the season. It was really him. There were so many games where he just played out of his mind despite the play in front of him, and if that's the kind of goalie they have for an entire season, I think they have a very, very good shot at going back to playoffs. And the second one, this kind of whole segment revolves around 3 other players, but one to focus on, but mainly Tuck 2 years ago, 79, dropped down to 59 points. Cousins 2 years ago, 68, dropped to 47 points. And last year, the big one to me, Tage Thompson, your number one center on this team. He needs to be able to take over games. He needs to be able to take over this team, lead this team. He's got to be that guy. Last year, he only had 56 points. The year before that, 94. That is a 38-point drop. I understand he was injured. I understand the whole entire team took a step back, but he did not look good until the very end of the year. So which Tage Thompson is it? Is it last year's Tage Thompson, or is it the 94-point player from 2 years ago? The Sabres need their top-line center to be a top-line center in the NHL. The fact that nobody on this team reached 60 points last year is insane, but the fact that your top-line center also didn't reach that goal, that benchmark, in 71 games. He only missed 7 games compared to the year before, yet 38 points were missed. Just not acceptable, and he needs to be the guy this year.
Yeah, I have no worries with Tage Thompson whatsoever. I don't know if he'll be the big, what did he get, 48 and 48?
47.
47 and 47. I don't think he's going to reach that mark, but I can see him high 30s, maybe low 40s of the goal total. I really think that injury really hampered him a lot more than he was letting on last year. I think he'll bounce back. UPL, remember, starting the season last year, he wasn't the 1 or the 2. He didn't play for a while to start that season. So I have been a bigger critic of UPL than probably is deserved. I think he played very, very well, improved, and made me look like an idiot. I was ready to move him for a 7th-round pick to like Colorado last offseason. But I do think that he will come into the season, be that 1A goalie, and be that one goalie. I don't even think you could put the 1A anymore. I think he's just going to be the one goalie. He should get 50 to 55 games this year. Levi can back him up, and Reimer can back him up as well. But I do want to see how he starts this season and how he can handle being that top goaltender for a full season. I want to see him repeat it, because last year, I'm hoping that it's not the outlier, but so far It's been the outlier of his career. He hasn't done this at any level. So I'm hoping that last year was not the outlier, and it's going to continue this season. For me, this one might come as a bit of a shock, because he kind of stepped up last year, but he's turning into a new role this year. He's getting the top line, and he's looking to replace the Skinner production, which they didn't really bring anybody in to replace the goal-scoring production. But it's J.J. Peterka, one of the only players that played all 82 games last year, 28, 22, and 50. That's a solid season for a sophomore player. I predicted he was going to put up 30 points or 30 goals. He was too short. But I do think this is a type of player that's going to thrive under a Lindy Ruff system. And I think with Tage and Tuck there, I think he can put up close to 65 to 70 points. And if he can do that on a top line, if he's a 70 to 80 point player, I think this team can be a playoff team as long as they get more depth scoring. But I think a guy like J.J. Peterka coming into his 3rd season, when everybody was talking about Jack Quinn last year before the injury, saying like, hey, Jack Quinn's going to be the next guy. It was J.J. Peterka coming into this season, or last season, being that top guy that needs to step up, and he definitely did it. But I think he needs another gear, and you're going to need players like this to take that next step, because what did we say all last year? You're bringing everybody back, banking on them to repeat their career seasons. That didn't happen, and it was stupid from anybody's perspective to think that that would happen. Either play at that pace or take another step forward. You're going to need balancing, because there are going to be players that take a step back. There's going to be players that take a step forward. I need J.J. Peterka to take a step forward. My second one here, Bo Byram. Last year with the Sabres, only 18 games. He went 3-6-9, but with Colorado, 55 games, 8-12-2. 8-12-20. We need him to be the true great second pairing defenseman to take pressure off of Dahlin and Power. I think a lot of times last year, Dahlin and Power were asked not to do too much, but I think there was too much weight on their shoulders. Yes, Samuelson needs to stay healthy. Yes, Power needs to step up his game and be a bigger force on the back end. But to make playoffs, you need at least 2 solid D lines, and I think Bo Byram was traded to the Buffalo Sabres for that exact reason. If you can have 2 solid defensive lines between Power, Dahlin, Bo Byram, and Mattias Samuelsson, and then behind them you got Clifton, Yoki Haru, Bryson, whoever else you want to throw back there on that third pairing. But if you can get away with like 44 to 46 minutes between those four defensemen, I think you can make this jump to the playoffs and break this drought.
Yeah, as far as Peterka goes, Skinner was averaging about 30 goals for the Sabres, and if you want to do an average, about 60 points during his good years, other than the 2 Kruger years, which we can ignore.
We do not name that man. He shall not be named.
So, yeah, he was averaging about 60 points and about 30 goals. So if Peterka can replicate that, that's exactly a direct replacement for Skinner. Much younger, much cheaper, even though the Sabres are still paying for Skinner. But I do think that he has that in him, and I think he showed that last year. And then, like you said, being put on the top line should give him even more opportunity to, take that next step and do even better. I think he's shown the skill even in preseason. He was just lighting it up. I do think he has every opportunity to be that Skinner replacement. I still would have loved to see the Sabres bring in a top 6 forward to kind of complete the overhaul, but I do think Peterka can step into that role. I don't know about their second line, and then Bo Byram, I think, will do really well. I mean, when he came to the Sabres last year, he looked really, really good. He stepped in pretty fluidly and seamlessly and seemed to be one of those guys. It was just, it was so weird when he came. And again, this is a lot of coaching, which is different, but just not only that, just his speed on the ice, his kind of compete level, and just everything he kind of mentioned, kind of subtly about just practices and what the difference was between the team he was on and the team he went to. I do think, like you just mentioned, that Lindy Ruff will get the best out of him and out of this defense, and I think he will be here for the long haul to make that next step and take a little bit of that pressure off the 2 first overall picks in Dahlin and Power.
So those are 2 players from each of us, 4 total, that need to step up this season for the Buffalo Sabres to break the longest playoff drought in North American sports right now, which is stupid because the Sabres have the longest NHL drought and the Bills have the longest football drought. But maybe Jets starts thinking it up and you can catch the Bills drought season. But on
what
our
are the
next
Jets?
show,
Are the Jets also at 13 or are they at 12?
I think they're at 12. Is it 12 or 13? I lost.
I thought they were tied. I'll look it up.
They're tied, but I can't remember if it's 12 seasons or 13 seasons between the 2 of them.
It should be 13.
Is it 13? Oh, God. But yeah, on our next show, we will talk bold predictions for the Buffalo Sabres season. Almost said Bills, but I did not. I'm buying a little bit more time as Phil's Googling away here to find out what the playoff drought number is. What do we got?
Nine longest active. The Sabres are at 12.
Okay.
And the Jets are at 13.
Okay.
But it says they're tied for first. I don't know why.
Maybe because it's
12,
current season going on.
13,
Maybe the Sabres will move to 13. I have no idea. But yeah, that'll be enough of that. We will.
This was from December 19, 2023. So the Sabres are at 13 now,
Yes.
and the Jets are also at 13. So they're tied at 13, but the Jets could move back to 14, and the Sabres can hopefully wipe it out and reset.
Jets will move to 14 before the Sabres anyways because their season ends before.
Yes.
But that also means that the Jets could end theirs before the Sabres does as well.
Sad.
But yeah, before we dive into the Buffalo Bandits final segment here, we will go over our sponsor of the show. I see Phil quickly scrolling down on his dock here. Tap That Tap Room.
Tap That Tap Room is at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. They are Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps. They offer a variety of beer, cider, sour, seltzers, and malt beverages. I had the opportunity to go there the other day where they were very, very lucky and know the play-by-play Steve from the Bandits was able to bring the championship trophy to Tap That Tap Room. It was awesome to see. It's ridiculously heavy to pick up, to get a picture with. Really, really cool experience, and would not have happened without them.
Yeah, shout out to Steve Bermel for getting that trophy over to Tap That Tap Room.
Greatly appreciate it.
Here is the time. You get your calendars ready. Thursday is the weekly karaoke, 7 p.m. Saturday, 9:28, we have live music with Buddy Hines, 7 p.m. Sunday, the 29th. Late game. We already went over it. The primetime game for the Buffalo Bills. Watch party at 8:20. Wear your jersey if you have the player of the game. They will announce it, and you get a free gift if you show up in that player's jersey at halftime. And they will hand out a jersey to someone in attendance, you lucky man or woman, whoever gets that jersey. Sound is on. Take in the final days of patio season. But for those of you who have always been listening to this, you always go, oh, there's trivia on Wednesdays, right? It's the weekly trivia. Yes, but tonight, 7:30 with Geeks Who Drink, it is Oktoberfest trivia. There's also a Stein holding contest kicking off around 8:30. Pretty much just hold some Steins. $10 buy-in. It includes beer in your Stein. You get to take the Stein home. Phil, I've never done one of these. If I do have time from cleaning the house, or maybe there's a showing and I can pop over to Tap That Tap Room, I would love to see people compete in this contest. But if you have any interest in any of these events going on, or you want to find out what else is going on, I know October is jam-packed of events with Tap That Tap Room. Check out their Facebook page for all their posted events, or to find out what's on tap and what's on deck, check out tapthattaproom.com. Phil, I don't know if you know, and I haven't had a ton of time to watch these, but the World Box Lacrosse Championships are going on right now. Buffalo Bandits are very well represented there. Canada has Byrne, Smith, McKay, and Priolo. U.S. has Dylan Robinson and Zach Belter. They also did have Brandon Robinson and Dalton Salver before this offseason went. Haudenosaunee has Tehoka Nanticoke, and Greece has Evan C. U.S. is 2-0. They got a 16-9 win over Haudenosaunee. They got a 23-3 win over England. Belter's played in both. Dylan Robinson's played in one. Canada is 2-0 with wins over England, 19-4, and a 13-10 win over Haudenosaunee. Burns played in one game, 3 assists. McKay's played in one game. Priolo's played in 2. Smith's played in one game, 1-1-2. They had a busy weekend because shout out to Dane Smith for getting married. Congratulations. I think Byrne and McKay were also there. I think that's why they've only played in one game. And then Haudenosaunee 0-2. Bomberry is still there. He's a UFA right now, but he's played in 2 games. And Tehoka Nanticoke's played in both games, 3-1-4. Greece is 0-3 with losses to Japan, 16-5. Finland 17-9. Switzerland 10-9. Evan C's played in all 3 games. 76% save percentage for the young guy. So Bandits are very well represented there. I know currently at 8 o'clock as of this recording tonight on Tuesday, Canada versus U.S. Big game there. When I have some time this coming weekend or the following weekend, I'm going to go back and rewatch some of the games that are available. But Bandits well represented in box championship.
The field has been fantastic. I don't know if you've seen any of the highlights of the grass and the turf that they use there. The one is like crazy checkerboard and looks awesome. Another one is blue, which also looks really cool. I'm not sure who posted it. Sorry about that. But somebody posted where they were watching one game and like flip the camera around and there's a field right behind them. So like 2 games going on at the same time. What a experience for everybody. I think it's just really, really cool. It seems like a really great tournament overall. Win, lose, who cares? Like the countries that are represented are awesome. The fact that they, all came here to perform in this is just a really, really cool experience for everybody. I mean, Evan C., with how young he is, being able to be the starting goalie for your country has got to be so cool. I mean, you're pretty much at a Olympic level because it's not quite back to the Olympics yet. So this is pretty much the Olympics for the lacrosse box world, and he gets to represent his country and be the starting goalie for them. That's amazing. I mean, the ability he has and just the experience he is gaining from this, playing all these teams and just being the starting goalie for them, really, really cool. All the other players that are doing well, I mean, USA, Canada, doing amazing. And like you said, the fact that those 3, Haudenosaunee, also part of that, just that kind of group of death, as they call it in the World Cup, where the top teams are just all in one group together. Pretty unfortunate, but at the same time, it's kind of cool to see all of them play each other. So that aspect is fantastic. And the highlights, the experience coming out of this looks really, really great.
Yeah, shout out to Utica. They sound like they're putting on an absolutely star-studded tournament. And you might as well, when all these star-studded players, like just looking at some of these rosters on what Canada looks like, what USA looks like, what Haudenosaunee looks like. It's just star-studded NLL talent up and down the lineup, and this is more valuable experience for all the younger guys, but this is also a really big milestone moment for a lot of these players wearing their country's colors on their uniform, representing their country in box lacrosse, and giving everybody a taste of what this could look like in a few years when this is in the Olympics. Like you were mentioning, this is their Olympics right now until it's back in 2028. So this is just a little bit of taste and a little bit of a warm-up for, I know that's going to be outdoors for Olympics, but this is a little bit of a taste what it's going to look for, or what it's going to look like, and you're gaining more fans out in the Utica market. You're gaining more fans on ESPN. Some of these games are being streamed there, so it's another step forward for lacrosse to keep gaining more notoriety and more attention on the sport. But Phil, some news has broken, and some signings have happened. Chris Cloutier did sign 1 year. So he was qualified and offered plus, so he was not going anywhere else besides the Buffalo Bandits. But he is locked in, so that's good to get down in front of camp. But also some draftees, the 8 of them, that they made all their draft picks. Marquise White and Brees Cordingley did get put on the draft list, so they will not be a part of the camp this year. They will not be a part of this team this year. They're kind of what Kellen Pulera and Jake Rosa were last year, where they were drafted. The rights are staying with the team, but they're going back to school to play. So they will not be a part, like I mentioned, of camp. But the 4 players that have signed so far, Lucas Nielsen, Taylor Dooley, Trent Robertson just signed hour ago. And then Vance Adams, the 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and a 6th-round pick will be entering camp all on 1-year deals. Phil, this camp is going to be absolutely jam-packed for a team that already doesn't have a ton of space in the 21/4 roster spots. I think Dietrich's going to have his hands full finagling some of those other fun roster lists he's got to play with.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, again, I don't know if we'll see trades at some point, or I don't think you're really going to see much anytime soon. I mean, I know you and I have some lefty forward concerns for sure. But for the most part, until you get a little closer to camps, maybe some injuries occur where you can trade some of these players and one of their 19 billion draft picks if needed to a team that could use one, and maybe the Bandits grab a future draft pick out of it. But for the most part, other than maybe a lefty forward, I really don't see them making any moves anytime soon as far as trades go. But down the line, you could see something like that. And again, we've talked about this a lot with these draft picks, that going into these camps, it's not just big for the Bandits, it's big for you to get your eyes out to the entire league of what you can do and how you can perform at this level. I think a lot of teams around the league, I'm sure, see the Bandits roster, see that they've won back-to-back championships, understand they don't have a lot of roster spots, and are probably looking at some of those draft picks of, hey, if this guy doesn't make it, maybe we can poach him off of that team because they're going to be crunched. So it's not just big for the players for the Bandits, but it's big for the entire league for these players to get in here, get signed, and see how they look coming into camp, because like you just mentioned, not a lot of spots.
Yeah, what you just said is perfect. That, hey, there's one less team in this league, so there's already less roster spots available because of all of Panther City's players that got dispersed, and that's more space that is being taken up by those players. Then there was the sixth round of the draft picks that are coming into the league as well. This is a sport where you can keep playing into your late 30s, so it's not like the NFL where your timeline in this sport is short. You can go as long as you possibly can. But what you said right at the end there is there's teams around the league. There's 13 other teams that are chasing the Buffalo Bandits, trying to have what they have. And they already see the talent that's on this team. They're going to be looking to poach. And if there's injuries around the league, that might be better for the Buffalo Bandits, because there are players on this team that are going to get cut that likely deserve a spot on an NLL roster. So not only is this a big camp coming up in October and November for the Buffalo Bandits and for the players that are going to be a part of the team, but this is a huge camp for the players that are on this bubble, which, you know, it's a nice little teaser for me here, of players that are on the bubble that might not have a spot on this team, but if you show up and show out in camp, there could be a spot on somebody else's NLL team where you can make the team there, you can make the practice squad there, make a name for yourself there, and grow in this league. So as I was teasing here, Bubble guys, it's way too early. Way too early, they said, but guess what? We're doing it anyways. And really look at what the roster bubble could look like in camps. For those of you who are not listening to the show in the past, we kind of in the offseason go over, okay, who's going to be the safe players on this team? Who can't we see getting cut? Who can we see being locks for this team? And reminder, as of now, because we haven't heard anything differently, there's 21 active spots and there's 4 practice squad spots. There are other lists. There's holdouts. There's draft lists. There's protected players lists and so on and so forth. We're only going to be talking here about, because Dietrich's is going to finagle whatever he can on those other lists. We're just going to be talking about the 21 roster spots, the active roster spots, and the 4 practice squad spots. So as we were going through this list, and we each have our own, we're developing, okay, who are the locks that are definitely going to be making this team? Who are players that we can't envision not making this team? And I got to 17 total players that were locks that I cannot see not making this team. Whether it's, I went more for it as what I have heard from the front office, what I've heard from the coaching staff, what my thoughts are on when these players got signed, when do they get brought in. So I came up with 17 players out of the 21 roster spots that I personally have locked into a safe spot. So that to me leaves 4 open roster spots and 4 open practice spots. What was your lock list look like?
Yeah, I'm going to let you roll through your safe list because I completely agree with it.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so defense / transition, we've got 9 players on it. I got Zach Belter's a lock, Paul Dawson, Ian McKay, Justin Martin, Steve Priolo, Dylan Robinson. Yes, Dylan Robinson still needs a deal, but his rights are with the team. I fully expect that to happen soon. Nick Weiss, Cam Wires, and Thomas Whitty. I have those 9 players from defense / transition are my locks to make this team.
Yeah, I think the only one that fans might be curious about is Whitty, but you're not trading Brandon Robinson to bring a guy in to then not have him be on the team. So he better be a lock. I'll put it that way. He better be on this team. He better be playing. He better be impactful.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it. You got Belter, who was a former first-round pick. Paul Dawson,
Played
who they
great.
signed back. He's not going anywhere. Ian McKay is one of the best transition players in the league. Justin Martin, they brought him back. They qualified him. He's one of the best defenders in the league that doesn't have his name in the box score very often.
Talked about a ton by the team with how much they love him.
And by us.
Yes.
Steve Priolo, captain, 3-year deal. He's not going anywhere. Dylan Robinson and Cam Wires, the other 2 first-round picks, they're not going anywhere. Nick Weiss re-signed in the offseason. And like you mentioned, Thomas Whitty, he got traded for the Brandon Robinson. He's making this team. So with the forwards, we got 6 here locked in. You got Kyle Buchanan, who's back for another year, possibly his final year because he was one of the last UFAs to re-sign with this team. Got Josh Byrne, former MVP of last year. Chris Cloutier just re-signed on a 1-year deal. Chase Frazier's got a qualifying offer plus, so he's going to be coming back. Toka Nanakok's lighting it up in the Worlds. And then Dane Smith, former 2-time MVP. So those are our 6 locked-in forwards that we just cannot imagine the Buffalo Bandits not starting the season with, pending, knock on wood, any injuries to this unit.
Yeah, that's the scariest thing about these Worlds is just be safe. I mean, yes, go represent your country, go win by all means. Everybody win. I don't know how that's not possible, but everybody go win, have fun. But do not get injured. Do not come out healthy, please. All
this
of
is
you.
like the preseason for the NFL.
Yeah, pretty
it's
much.
A win
this
if
is
you get out healthy.
right. It's a little terrifying, honestly, having this tournament go on. I don't know who it was. Oh my gosh, I forgot who it was. There was somebody that got injured. I don't know if it was serious or they came back, but somebody went down. It was an NLL player, a big one. And I was like, oh no, that's a thing and that can happen. So hopefully they come out healthy. But yeah, these 6, I mean, this forward group has been together for a little while now. They are incredible. They led the league in goals last year. They're really, really, really good. And Dietrich has talked about keeping that group together pretty much as long as possible. We'll see what happens next year. But Buchanan coming back was massive to both of us and to this show. I think he is a huge, huge piece of this offense, of this team. So I think him coming back was massive. But right now you have that, and we'll get into it in a second. Go over your last part. Sorry.
Yeah,
jumping the
two
gun.
goalies. Matt Vince, he is signed. For everybody talking about, like, oh, is Matt Vince any board on them? He signed a 2-year deal. He's going to be coming back. Again, I ended the Mad Manny Minute because all the signs point to him coming back. And I thank God I ended it because my days have gotten even busier. So I don't know how I'm going to squeeze all these in. But we're under the full assumption that Matt Vince is returning for another season with the Buffalo Band. And Steve Orleman is his backup. So those are our two goalies. So in total, 17 safe spots. We got 4 open spots on the 21, and we got 4 open spots on the practice squad. For me personally, that leaves, we got 7 guys plus 4 guys plus 4 guys. It's 15 guys right now. Now, that doesn't include the Frank Brown, who's an RFA. That doesn't include Bryce Sweeting and Adam Bomberry, who are UFAs. That includes guys like Chase Frazier, just Justin Robinson, Dylan Robinson, all the guys that need deals signed with this team here. But that also doesn't include Luca Anton Giovanni, who's one of their draft picks. Is he going to go on the draft list? Is he going to sign here? Angus McDonald. Again, 2 other draft picks right now that we don't know, are they going on the draft list or are they going to sign a deal here? So currently, we got 15 guys for 8 spots. So there's going to be 7 guys here that we do have to cut. So let's fill out the rest of the 21. Who are your other 4 guys that you're going to have locked into the spots right now? Or are there any positional battles right now? To me, when I was doing this, I really end up having one camp battle, which is a little annoying to me. But I looking at this and looking at all the moves they made, I have one battle between 2 players, which is astonishing for the players they're bringing to camp.
Yeah, I have that same exact battle, but I have it being 3-way, and it depends on Anton Giovanni. Like, if he signs, that's going to be big if he does or does not sign. To me, Connor Farrell, all signs point to him being back. Like you said, he signed 2 years, so this would be a second year. They seem like they would like him back. We've heard nothing otherwise. You and I would like a different style face-off guy, but that's a different story. He's on this team, and he seems like he's going to be on this team. And then, to me, it gets sketchy. Evan C. for sure, I think, is your practice squad. Sam LaRue for sure is your practice squad, and then a couple of rookies. But as far as the open spots on the active roster, Clay Scanlon right now is your lead lefty forward because you only have 2. I don't know. I don't know if they make a deal to bring somebody else in, and this is not a shot at Scanlon. This is simply a team that has championship aspirations to go back to back to back. I don't know if he's who you want as your third lefty forward. I still have an alternate plan that I do not like, so I'm going to keep it to myself. We've talked about it a lot off podcast, but I'm not going to speak into the world because I don't like it. But for right now, he's your third lefty forward, so I think he's on the team. Spanger, to me, is still a question mark. I know you said he signed early, so I do think they at least want him in camp for sure. We'll see what he's got, but to me, I think some of these rookies, especially with how Belzer and Wires performed last year as, first-year rookies, first-round draft picks, and stepping into huge roles, especially for a championship team. They weren't healthy scratches for all of playoffs. Like, they were monster parts of this team. I could see the team kind of leaning on the rookies because of those 2 proving that they could step into that situation and play really, really well, that they might lean on a Dooley for transition, and Anton Giovanni if he does end up signing for a transition, or who is the other one I'm missing? Robertson was the other. Yep, he's the other defensive. So Spanger, I think personally, and Justin Robinson, he's the other extreme bubble guy to me. Again, he was a healthy scratch for all of playoffs. That still really sticks in my mind that 2 rookies took his spot, and it could happen again to me this year. So I think the rookies could absolutely push Spanger and Robinson. Those are the 2 biggest, I would say, open spots I have. Robinson's also been injured. Spanger, I believe, also injured. So do you want rookies in that position? I don't know. But I think those 2 are the 2, to me, that are the biggest camp battles that could be pushed out by rookies, especially with the heavy transition defense that they went with the rookies this year.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said perfectly how I was feeling as well. It really comes down to, hey, what does Anton Giovanni do? Does he sign a deal? Because if he does, that there's a whole nother wrinkle into my current plan right now.
Eighth overall,
then
He's
I have a
making it.
three-way battle for one spot.
Right, and that was my problem.
Exactly. So, like, I fully agree. Connor Farrell, I think, is as close to a lock without being a lock on this roster because they didn't do anything in the draft or in free agency to replace that position. So as long as he's willing to come back for another season, I think he's a lock for this roster. Craig Scanlon, another reason because right now they have two lefty forwards besides Scanlon on this team. They traded Brad McCulley early last season. They just shipped out Brandon Robinson to Rochester. When they drafted Nielsen, that's a righty forward to possibly replace a Kyle Buchanan next year. So they don't have another lefty forward unless you're planning on having Ian McKay take a lot more offensive shifts. And I don't like that. I know he likes being more of a transition player. If you're putting him strictly on forwards, I think you're diminishing the value that he provides to this team. And I think that negatively affects this offense. So I think Scanlon right now, as this roster stands now, I think he is as close to a lock as possible. Then you get Matt Spanger, where I think you and I both agree with our position on him, but based on when they signed him, I believe that he is almost. I think him, along with Scanlon and Farrell, are as close to locks as you can be without being locked. So I have those three fully locked into there. Then is Justin Robinson, who I agree with you. He was a healthy scratch all through playoffs, but they did offer him as an RFA. They didn't do that to Brandon Robinson. They didn't do that to Frank Brown. So that clearly says something about his value to the team and his value around the league. But they re-signed a guy like Corey Highfield. That's the battle that I currently have, and that's the only battle right now as of this recording that I can see right now as a 21-man roster battle between Justin Robinson and Corey Highfield. They traded assets to get Corey Highfield, and they traded for Justin Robinson a few offseasons ago. They clearly value both those players, but there's just not a ton of room on this roster. So to me, that is the position battle as this roster stands right now. But what you said about the rookies is perfect. These rookies can push these veterans that are on the end of my 21-man roster. The Matt Spanger, if he doesn't show up to camp ready to play and play better than he did down until he got hurt last year, I thought he lost a bit of a step, and that's why I thought, okay, this might not be a player that comes back. But they did sign him earlier. He could get pushed for a roster spot with the Dooleys and the Anton Giovanni if he signs here, and the Robertson as well. I think he's a name that we always forget to mention. He was an early second-round pick. So Justin Robinson, same situation. Corey Highfield, same situation. So these rookies can come in and push the veterans for those pieces. So that's my 21-man roster for the practice squad. It's going to be very young. I mean, I'm building this kind of how I thought they would build it in the beginning. I got Lucas Nielsen because he is their fifth righty forward. Taylor Dooley, until he earns that spot, I could see him sliding into the active roster and one of these other veterans sliding back to the practice squad. But right now I'll lean with the veterans because this is a championship team. Evan C. is their third goaltender and their possible future goalie in the wings. And then they love Sam LaRue. I do agree with your sentiment that you said a few episodes back where his danger could be in the transition game. So I do see him making that transition to the transition game rather than the forwards. But, that's a lot of youth on the practice squad for a team that has championship aspirations. Can there be one of these rookies that steps up? And then as soon as Anton Giovanni signs, it throws a whole nother wrinkle into everything we just talked about, and this episode goes right in the dump.
Yeah, I do think, again, just the example of Weyers and Belter and how they were able to learn throughout the season last year and go into playoffs and be very impactful playoff rookies. I think that kind of just proves to the Bandits that, okay, if we do have to go that way, or if these rookies come out and show that they can push these veterans, that we can trust them in that situation to step up and still win a championship with a couple of rookies on our defensive side, especially with the amount of vets they have on defense. I mean, it's just loaded with veterans. So even those two now are, 1 year in and their improvement throughout the year was impressive. And now with Paul Dawson coming back to captain even more, Priolo for 3 years. I mean, their defense is half young, half veterans. It's a really solid mix, but I do think because of what happened last year, they might be willing to trust rookies, even though they're a championship team. And that's not often what championship teams want to do. The biggest kind of issue we have, and we've already talked about it a little bit on this episode, there's just so many righties. Like, even the defense, every single defender they signed is a righty. Nielsen's a righty. LaRue's a righty. And I think the three big defenders they got in the top three of the draft are all righties. Like, they just did not add even a lefty defender, if you wanted to throw that. I know Whitty is a lefty, so that is something, but all of their draft picks, their top four at least, were all righties, and LaRue's a righty. And so there's just a big lack of lefties on the defense or offensive side of this team, and I think that is a hole in general. And I do wonder if they're going to make a move before the season starts to try to figure that out. I don't know. Again, this isn't a shot at Scanlon at all, but I just don't know if you want, as a championship-looking team and the team that everybody's going after, if that's who you want as your third lefty forward. And then even outside of that, there's just no depth on the left side anywhere. I mean, even Nielsen becomes your, what, did you say, fifth righty forward, and you have two, arguably three lefty forwards. Like, it's just no depth on the left side, and I think that's interesting, and we'll see if they address it. There's still a long time before the season really kicks off, even like you said, October, November for camp and everything. So we'll see if anything kind of goes down between now and then. It'll be interesting if it doesn't. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, the lefties still in the free agent market that are of note. Dane Dobie's still sitting out there. He's 38 years old. Zach Greer, who I wouldn't be shocked if he does decide to hang it up. Chris Wardell and Logan Shush. But the difference with all those lefties, they're more West Coast guys. So would they be willing to make the move to the East Coast and play for a possible championship team? Maybe a Dane Dobie. You know, he had 70 points last year, but he's on the tail end of his career. Is he willing to come here and be more of a grinder, a setup man for the Josh Burns and the Chris Cloutiers, or do you just roll with what you got right now? But I do agree, it's the lefty forwards that kind of stand out to me. We kind of went into this offseason expecting Brandon Robinson to come back because he fills that certain role. That's not happening right now. Clay Scanlon right now is the next man to stand up, but with this bubble, that kind of leaves guys like Vance Adams. We got Corey Highfield on the bubble right now, but Kellen Polera. We got Drake Rosa. Ryan Sharkey came back again. Your boy Christian Watts. And then a second-round pick in Trent Robertson, where there's just not room on this team as of now. And again, there's other lists that you can finagle if people go on the holdout list, if there's injuries going into camp. We saw Bryce Sweeting. We were fully expecting him to be playing last year, and then he was on the IR all last year. So that opened up a roster spot. You had other players that opened the season, and then players get hurt. So this is a good problem to have, because it never hurts to have this depth in defense, which they have oodles of. There's not any shortage of defenders right now on this team, but looking at this roster right now, the biggest glaring hole is going to be that left side of the forward group of, yes, if Clay Scanlon can't pull through and be that third lefty, you do have Ian McKay in the wings, but I already mentioned, that kind of hurts the transition game. That hurts the back end. He's not it's no shot at him, but he's not a true forward. That's not his given area of value for this team. It's the transition game. So it will be interesting to see. There's still time before camp opens. The majority of October is still free agency, and still trades can be made. But as the roster stands right now, I think lefty forward is their biggest concern right now, and maybe that's something that, I'm not saying we didn't hit hard enough in the offseason because we kind of assumed Brandon Robinson was coming back, but I think that's an area of not concern, but an area to keep an eye on as we get closer to camp that we weren't envisioning when the offseason began.
And even Lucas Nielsen, like their right. Top forward and top draft pick is a righty. And I understand that Buchanan's going out at some point, so I understand getting development behind him if that's who they really wanted. That was their favorite forward. All for it, not against it. But even with the rest of your draft picks, you didn't pick a lefty forward pretty much anywhere. So, I mean, just very interesting to have just a strong lack of depth on that lefty side, even past Scanlon. I mean, yes, even if Scanlon's their third lefty forward, you just don't have, like you just had 5 righty forwards, and then Sam LaRue, who used to be a righty forward, and even like Christian Watts, who's here, a righty forward. I mean, it's just the lack of lefty depth brought in to even fight for a camp spot is just very interesting, and we'll see. Again, a lot of time. We'll see what happens, but shipping Robinson out and then not doing much in the draft as far as a lefty, I don't know if they have some other plan in mind or if this is what they're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm trying to find right now. I believe Rosa and Pulera are
both lefties?
lefties.
It's hard to find, by the way. I've looked
I'll
at
have to
a lot of
follow up
things.
next week. I believe they are lefties. They're both forwards. It wouldn't be shocking if they're both lefties. So they do have some depth there, but neither of us have them making the team. So,
Right.
I mean, it's probably Scanlon, Pulera, and Rosa fighting for that third spot. And right now, as of this moment, I have Scanlon in front of both of those. But, Phil, that pretty much wraps up this bubble episode. Is there anything else you would like to add to this episode before we shut it down for another busy week here in the Kenny household, and a lot more maintaining over here as you deal with your little kitten on your side, of which I have not seen all episode?
He's not in the room.
Oh, that would explain. I've been watching behind your head, waiting for his little head to pop up.
Yeah, no, he's running around out there. He's got to get his energy out before he's got to come back in the room and go to bed. But yeah, check out Tap That Tap Room tonight if you're listening to this on Wednesday, and go see how you do in the beer stein holding contest. Pretty unique idea and pretty awesome idea. And happy fall, October. I know it was really hot last week, but it's a little cooler this week, so that feels nice. Yeah, go test out your luck and your strength. See how you do.
So on our next episode, we'll go over Bills versus Ravens Sunday night. Make sure you're heading to Tap That Tap Room for that viewing party, and make sure you keep an eye on who is the player of the game to wear their jersey, and maybe you'll be the winner of a halftime jersey as well. Sabres, we will talk more preseason action as well as our 3 bold predictions next episode, and more Bandits content and NLL content on the next episode. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and that's it. Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Check out our store on our link trees on our socials, or at the top shop tab at the top of our website. You can follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, and make sure you leave us that glorious review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.